It was the night of August 30th, 1997. The pendulum clock in the hallway read 11:40 at night. I stood motionless in the center of the living room of the opulent imperial suite at the Ritz Hotel in Paris. The air was heavy, almost solid, saturated with a cloying mixture of Hermès 24 Faubourg perfume, acrid Cuban cigar smoke, and a subtle metallic smell that I had learned to recognize as the scent of pure fear. They had just left, fleeing like criminals through the kitchen service doors to that black Mercedes S280 that would enter the Pont de l'Alma tunnel and never come out. I was supposed to just do the turn-down service, change the damp towels from the bath they didn't take, and collect the champagne glasses, still full and flat, before they returned from the dinner that never happened. But as I mechanically fluffed the golden silk cushions of the yellow velvet sofa, my hand touched something hard, cold, and heavy that did not belong to that luxury. It was a small pocket recorder, a black Sony dictaphone, a journalist's model, that had slipped into the deep crevice of the seat in the chaotic and clumsy rush of their exit. The small red rec light was still pulsing in the dark of the room, blinking like a dying heart, indicating that the battery was running low, but it was still recording the silence. Moved by a dangerous curiosity I didn't know I possessed, I pressed the stop button, heard the mechanical click, rewound the magnetic tape to the beginning, and placed the small speaker against my ear. What I heard was not a secret confession of love or royal gossip. It was the voice of Princess Diana, trembling, broken, reading aloud and breathlessly a technical document she had taken from a leather folder bearing the royal crest. The last sentence she recorded, minutes before dying, froze the blood in my veins and rewrote the history of the 20th century for me. 3i Atlas is slowing down drastically. Natural celestial bodies do not hit the brakes. This is not a rock coming to kill us. It is their rescue ship, and we the people are not on the passenger list. For you to believe the weight of what I am about to tell, you need to understand exactly who I am and how I operated, or rather, what I was in that golden era. I am not an international spy, I am not a systems engineer, and I am not an investigative journalist. I was a senior night chambermaid at the Hotel Ritz Paris, one of the most exclusive places on Earth. I was, by professional definition and rigorous training, a ghost. Ultra-rich and powerful people do not look in the eyes of those who clean the floor, change the sheets, or collect the bathroom trash. To them, we are part of the furniture, automatons without ears and without memory. They talk in front of us, discuss state secrets, betrayals, and commit financial crimes as if we were not there. I am an immigrant. I came from Eastern Europe to France, fleeing post-Soviet misery, and that job was all I had to support my family. My survival rule was sacred. See everything, hear everything, say nothing, and never ever ask questions or make eye contact. On that stifling August night, the hotel was under siege. It was a controlled and luxurious chaos. Photographers and paparazzi surrounded the main entrance of Place Vendôme like a pack of hungry, noisy wolves waiting for the prey to leave the den. The tension inside the imperial suite was palpable, vibrating in the walls almost. Suffocating. I entered for the emergency cleanup shift as soon as security informed via internal radio that the princess and Mr. Al-Fayed had descended via the service elevator, passing through the kitchen garbage bins to try to throw off the press. My job was to leave the room spotless in exactly 15 minutes in case the escape failed, and they decided to return frustrated to the room. I picked up the designer clothes thrown on the floor, emptied the crystal ashtrays full of nervous cigarette butts, and aligned the papers scattered on the coffee table. It was in this moment of silent and methodical haste that I found the recorder. They left so fast, with such panic in their eyes, that the object must have fallen from her open purse when she stood up. I didn't take it out of malice, espionage, or greed. I put it in the deep pocket of my starched white apron, thinking solely of discreetly handing it to the head of security in the hallway as soon as I finished my task. But then the world outside exploded. The sirens began to howl. It was not a common police siren. It was a dissonant chorus of medical emergency and firefighters that made the hotel's double-glazed windows vibrate. Not 10 minutes had passed since the recorder weighed in my pocket, until the atmosphere in the hotel changed from silent luxury to absolute and disordered panic. The night manager, a man I had never seen lose his composure, ran down the first-floor hallway, pale as a linen sheet, with the communication radio clenched in his trembling hand. I heard the static explode into shouts in French and English, voices of security guards who were in the convoy. "Severe accident at the Alma Tunnel. The car is destroyed. Code black. I repeat, code black. Prepare the infirmary, but I don't think it will help. There are no vital signs." I stood paralyzed in the middle of the suite, like a statue, feeling the cold weight of the recorder's plastic burning against my leg through the thin fabric. Of my uniform, my survival instinct, forged in years of poverty and fear of deportation, screamed louder than my professional duty. If I handed that over now, in the middle of that hysterical confusion where everyone was looking for scapegoats to save their own skins, they could accuse me of theft. Or worse, they could think I planted an illegal bug to sell the audio to the British tabloids. I would be arrested, interrogated, deported, and my life would end that night. I made the decision that defined my destiny and my curse. I decided to keep the object temporarily. I went down the concrete service stairs, avoiding the elevators, to the staff locker room in the third basement. While the world outside began to mourn the death of the most famous woman on the planet, and the hotel phones didn't stop ringing like a fire alarm, I locked myself in the last stall of the women's restroom, sat on the closed toilet lid, and with trembling, sweaty hands, plugged my cheap headphones into the dictaphone output. The tape was 40 minutes long. Most of it was silence, gasping breath, the sound of a lighter clicking, and the noise of paper being turned violently. But in the last 8 minutes, Diana's voice emerged. She was not talking to anyone in the room. She was recording an audio will, an insurance policy against her own death. Her voice did not have the soft, shy, diplomatic tone we saw on TV. It was the raw, hoarse, and urgent voice of a cornered mother who had discovered the supreme truth and knew she had no way out. In the following hours, even before the sun rose over Paris, the hotel was silently invaded. But it wasn't just uniformed French police officers doing forensics. It was men in ill-fitting grey suits, with aristocratic British accents and frightening military efficiency. I saw them through the cracks of the service doors. They went straight up to the imperial suite like hunting dogs. They didn't isolate the area to preserve the scene. They dismantled it. Systematically, I could hear the noises from the hallway. They slashed the expensive mattresses with knives, ripped the wooden boiserie panels from the walls, dismantled the air-conditioning pipes, and pulled up the carpet. They were looking for something specific, something small. They weren't looking for drugs, lovers, or stolen jewelry. I heard one of them, a tall, bald, cold man, shout at the hotel manager in the hallway, not caring who heard, "Where is the brown folder? Where are the audio? Records? Nothing. Absolutely nothing leaves this building without my personal authorization. Search the trash. Search the staff." I froze inside the damp locker room. I knew, with absolute and icy certainty, that I had the object they were looking for. Fear gave me a supernatural clarity. I wrapped the recorder in a grease-stained cleaning cloth and hid it inside the false bottom of an empty, stained coffee thermos on my service cart. I left through the back door, the trash and cargo exit, mixed. In with the kitchen staff finishing the night shift, everyone crying and in shock. No one searched the old, tired, invisible chambermaid. No one looked at my face. No one saw the tremor in my hands. I was part of the scenery, like a trash can or a broom. I walked 30 blocks on foot to my home in the suburbs, listening to the sirens cut through the Paris night, feeling like I was carrying a tactical nuclear bomb in my purse. I locked the door, turned off the lights, closed the curtains, and told no one for 27 years. I watched the funeral on TV, the mountains of flowers, the conspiracy theories about the driver Henri Paul being drunk. But I knew the truth. If they found out I had the tape, I would suffer a domestic accident, a fire, or a botched robbery. But now I am old. I have terminal cancer and little time. The secret weighs more than the fear of death. What is recorded on that analog tape changes everything history has recorded about her death. On the recording, Diana reads excerpts from a confidential technical dossier stamped with red Top Secret, Majestic 12 and Royal Astronomy Society stamps. She describes the object called 3i Atlas. According to the document she was reading with difficulty, stumbling over scientific terms, NASA, the Vatican, and world governments had been monitoring this object since 1994. Publicly, the media was being prepared, through movies and fake news, to report the passage of a large comet, or harmless asteroid, in a safe orbit around Earth in the coming years, something for us to look at with awe. But Diana, with her voice choked with tears and anger, reads the real telemetry data that was on the stolen paper. She states clearly, the object's speed decreased by 40% in the last 12 hours after passing Jupiter's gravity. It is actively correcting its trajectory using propulsion. Natural objects do not correct trajectory. Rocks don't break. They are lying to us. They know what it is and they know who is piloting it. Her voice breaks in pure despair. She mentions that Dodi obtained the documents through high-level military contacts in the Middle East, generals who were being left out of the Great Deal. Atlas was not coming to collide and destroy the Earth like a meteor. It was coming to dock in high orbit. She says, Charles knows, the Queen knows, the Pope knows. They are building bunkers and seed stockpiles not to hide from nuclear war, but to wait for transport to orbit. The most terrifying and revealing part of the tape is when she finally understands and verbalizes what that means for the rest of humanity. For us, she says, almost whispering, as if afraid the hotel walls had electronic ears. It's not a comet. It is a technological Noah's Ark. They negotiated an exit. The planet will go through a cyclic event of destruction soon, something solar or geological that they cannot stop, and the global elite sold humanity's sovereignty and resources in exchange for guaranteed seats on this gigantic alien ship. She begins to list names that were in the document, reading fast. G7 heads of state, central bankers, tech moguls, and of course, the entire European royalty. She says there is a strict quota of essential passengers and elite genetic material, and then she cries. A visceral, ugly cry of deep pain. Not for herself, but for her children. She says between sobs, William is on the primary boarding list. Harry was placed only as a genetic reserve, but Charles negotiated his spot by handing over Crown lands. I will not let them go without me or be taken by those things off the Earth. I will tell the world that the lifeboat is coming and they locked the doors for the common people to drown. Diana didn't die because she was pregnant by a Muslim or because she was going to marry and taint the bloodline. That is the perfect racist smokescreen created for the tabloids. She died because, on that specific night, she had the physical and documentary proof in her purse that the global elite was preparing a secret evacuation of Earth, leaving billions behind to face the cataclysm. The accident in the tunnel was not caused by reckless paparazzi. It was a military operation for Omega-level information leak containment. They needed to recover the physical dossier at any cost before it reached the press. And they recovered the folder in the destroyed and twisted car. But they didn't recover the audio she recorded in the hotel room while reading the papers, the audio that stayed with me. The recording ends abruptly, violently, and without goodbyes. I hear Dodi Al-Fayed's voice in the background, shouting from the suite door, sounding anxious. Diana, the car is ready at the service exit. We have to go now. Security said the route is clear. She hesitates. I hear the noise of her grabbing her purse, the sound of fabric rustling. She whispers a final, urgent sentence directly into the recorder's microphone before purposely dropping it on the sofa, leaving it there as a clue or a message in a bottle. If something happens to me tonight, if I don't make it to London, know that 3i Atlas is real. Look at the sky. When it arrives, they will disappear one by one into their jets and bunkers, and we will stay here to burn alone. After that, there is only the sound of footsteps running on the soft carpet and the heavy suite door slamming with a final bang. And then, 40 minutes of silence. From the empty suite, capturing only the hum of the minibar and the distant sound of Paris traffic, until the moment I enter the room and find it. For 27 years, I looked at the sky every night, looking for a star that moves wrong. I researched obsessively about Atlas. Officially, the name was erased or altered in astronomical records, but I noticed something disturbing. Since '97, human technology has jumped impossibly. The internet, smartphones, artificial intelligence, global surveillance, private exploration of Mars. What if Atlas brought something in exchange? Or what if the deal was sealed with technology transfer to prepare the harvest? The royalty is still there, firm, but acting strangely, distant. The feeling that they are just packing their bags and waiting for the astronomical launch window never left my head. Yesterday, I finally had the courage that failed me for almost 3 decades. I digitized the analog tape on a computer, disconnected from the internet, and sent encrypted copies to 3 investigative journalists in different countries that do not have extradition treaties with England or France. The original I destroyed with fire and buried the melted pieces in a woods. I don't know how much time I have left with my advancing illness, but I don't want to die taking this weight to the grave. Diana tried to warn us. She was the only one among them, the only one of that untouchable caste who really cared about what would happen to us, the disposable people. When the ship arrived to pick up the masters of the world, they told the world it was a tragic accident with a drunk driver and high speed in a dangerous tunnel. But I was there. I saw their eyes before they went down to the lobby. The driver was sober and terrified. They weren't running from photographers on motorbikes. They were running from a state-sanctioned hit squad. And now you know what they were really running from. It wasn't the cameras or the scandal. It was the cold silence of space that would come after the chosen ones departed. Now I ask you, looking into your eyes, do you feel, deep in your soul, that the world is being prepared to be abandoned by the ultra-rich? Do you think the sudden technology we have today is human, or was the price of the one-way ticket? Leave your theories in the comments. I need to know if I'm not crazy. If this video disappears, you know that the Ritz cleaning operation isn't over, even after decades. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because the truth is the only thing they can't take in the ship's carry-on luggage. And tell me, from what city or country are you watching this video? Comment your city and country. Until the next time, while we are all still here,